Welcome to the fifth episode of the Marketing Lens. It has been an amazing journey so far, and more than anything, I have learned so much while researching for these sessions. And my perspective from the hotel side has become so much more rich with input from Shiva, and I'm sure he must also have understood how what we need as hotels. So without waiting anymore, and as the time is already 5, so we'll be starting now. Shiva, please continue.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us at 5 on a Saturday. I hope everyone's got their afternoon nap if you got an opportunity to. Now you can relax with a nice cup of tea or coffee and enjoy this session that we've curated for you. And it's one of those topics where, all of us are aware that LinkedIn is such an important platform. All of us know that there's the right kind of audience sitting on this platform. But somewhere, and I would actually say that's a fault of both the agencies and the clients. Somewhere we've always shied away from this platform, and the value that this platform holds is too immense to keep it aside. So that's why we curated this session where we thought we'll walk you through some of the important aspects of LinkedIn. We've actually tried to cover different journeys that as businesses you can take over the LinkedIn platform. And by the end of the session, you can probably just choose which journey sets the best for you, which goes well with your current setup, and you can implement that. Why we've called it a cheat sheet is because towards the end, we've actually tried to put down a couple of points which can be implemented as soon as you're done with this session. And I think even when we discussed initially this topic, when Preetham and I were discussing this topic, both of us had this initial excitement with this topic because we've constantly been, talking to multiple hotels. We've been, discussing those right strategies on LinkedIn, and this is a time to connect with all of you, understand some of the queries that you might have around LinkedIn, and probably, hopefully, show you the right path towards a good LinkedIn strategy. I'm glad we are doing this for the fifth time together, Preetham. So I think it's turning on into a series now. We can officially call it a series, right? And it's always wonderful to host a session with you. So I'm looking forward to all the inputs that comes from a hotelier's perspective.
Right. It's a pleasure to be on this shows with you, Shiva, and together I think we'll make every attempt possible to provide as much value as we can within the next hour. So the agenda for today is very accurate and brief. We'll be covering the power of LinkedIn. How is it growing every day? How can we set up our accounts for success and make sure that our basics are in place? We'll also share some pro tips on how can we advertise on LinkedIn. And as Siva promised, we'll have a cheat sheet or a reference sheet that we all can use going ahead. We'll be ending the session as usual with question and answers. And today I'm hoping that we should get some very interesting questions because LinkedIn touches our lives in more than one way. So
Correct.
LinkedIn stands for quality, and before Shiva goes more in detail into this, as Shiva mentioned, LinkedIn is not just one platform. It has got a lot of qualities, and as we all know, it is primarily used for four things. One is hiring, which is more of an HR perspective, which of course we won't be covering today. It also has got a lot of learning solutions, which because of its tie-up with a lot of universities, you can do a lot of courses on LinkedIn, which is again something that we're not covering today. The two other subjects which are left out is how can you market well on LinkedIn, and that's our focus, and also how you can sell and create leads on LinkedIn, which also will be covering in a brief way. So that's the perspective of LinkedIn that I have and the purposes that it solves. Over to you, Siva.
So absolutely, what we've tried to do during this session is so LinkedIn has multiple aspects, as Preetham rightly said. We're going to try to focus more on the marketing side of things and how you can utilize this platform to really market your business. We will try to give examples on the hospitality end, but we'll try to keep the conversation a little more generic as well. I believe there are a couple of attendees today who come from different industries as well. So the first thing is why LinkedIn? I think it's an answer that must be there in all of our minds. We know that the right profiles are sitting there. This is a number that's put out by LinkedIn itself. They're claiming that 4 out of 5 LinkedIn members drive business decisions. So they are the decision makers, and you're able to reach out to them on LinkedIn. There are 2 times more buying power compared to average web audience, which is a wonderful number to look at. So if you're able to convince the right person on LinkedIn, there are higher chances of a conversion. LinkedIn is the number one platform for B2B lead generation. Hands down, like we have noticed that when we worked with a couple of clients and supported them on B2B marketing, LinkedIn advertising has always given us quality leads, quality conversations, and it's been a fantastic experience. Putting up ads. There are a lot of myths around LinkedIn in terms of it being expensive and everything, and I think we'll cover all of that during the session. Right. And I think,
Right.
yeah, from a perspective of laying out the numbers of LinkedIn, we are good on. But I think, Peter, we'd like to hear from you the evolution part, since I think you had something important to share here.
Right. No, LinkedIn has come a long way since it was conceptualized. So on one end of the spectrum is the job assistance factor and the HR factor, and we were all aware of sites like Naukri.com, Monster, and Indeed, and they even exist today and have their own value. But LinkedIn, in a big way, has replaced them and has become number one choice for millennials. In fact, 41% of millennials are on LinkedIn, which gives us a lot of buying power, as Shiva mentioned. There are around 50,000 skills which are listed on LinkedIn, which is again a huge number. There are 100 million job applications that happen every month. There are 90,000 schools which are listed, and there are 30 million companies which are very much here. So, which all gives it's the power and the number one platforms when it comes to not only job search but staying connected beyond job search. It has lately also become a platform where people motivate each other, recommend for jobs. If somebody notices there's a vacancy, you can easily tag somebody whom you might think is fit for that, and in that way provide support to each other. It already has got 675 million users, and not is only the first choice of students, but is also a platform where all the Fortune 500 companies are listed, which means that it is an amazing place for B2B marketing. And in terms of organic reach, LinkedIn has got much more organic reach than what other platforms like Facebook and Instagram in the social scenario have. So this is a power that we must realize and must use to advantage. LinkedIn individually was on its own as a startup, but later Microsoft acquired it, and that has made LinkedIn evolve as a technology platform and bring a lot of solutions, which some of what we'll be discussing today. The latest uh, angle and the reason why which LinkedIn has become so important and why we decided to include it in today's session is the cost of running an ad on LinkedIn was very high. So the glass ceiling was on a much higher side. Now it has come down to very low. It is affordable for everyone. I think it's come down to around $10 minimum that you can start a campaign, which makes it at par with other platforms wherein it was very easy. On a Facebook, you can start a campaign with as low as 50 rupees. So LinkedIn has got that power now, and it's not only for big budgets, but also with a small budget, you can taste the power of LinkedIn. Uh, and LinkedIn Elevate, Shiva, can you describe more about this one? Uh, I think there's some audio
Right.
issue at Shiva's end. Hello.
Is it clear now, Peter? Can you hear us?
Yes, yes, yes. So I'm asking, can you describe on the LinkedIn Elevate?
Correct. So LinkedIn, they when they introduced this platform, LinkedIn Elevate, it's been there for a couple of years now. It was all about how you can utilize LinkedIn and utilize the strength of your employees. So they created this platform where companies could curate content for their employees, and the employees can internally push it out from their page, and make sure that the messaging that's going out from a company is similar, it's vetted, it's checked, and the entire employee strength of the company turns into a brand advocate on LinkedIn profile. So I think that was a brilliant development that they did with LinkedIn Elevate. There are a lot of companies which have already started adopting to LinkedIn Elevate, and they're even planning on integrating it with a regular LinkedIn page. So all of our businesses, without an additional cost, will become a part of LinkedIn Elevate towards the end of this year, and that will really help us make sure that our entire employee strength is working as brand advocates for us on the LinkedIn platform. I think we're going to touch upon a little more on that once we give out the strategy as well. But that's just a brief introduction of what LinkedIn Elevate is all about. And I think going with this conversation of LinkedIn Elevate, one thing that we really need to understand is that the kind of strategies that we implement on Facebook or Instagram, for that perspective, are very different compared to what we need to do on LinkedIn. And that is because the purpose of people once they come onto the platform like LinkedIn is very different, right? A behavior of a person on LinkedIn is more purposeful, right? They come for specific purpose. That's why I've gotten this slide together where I've divided into two aspects. That as businesses, how do we look at LinkedIn and what your audience is looking for? So that will help us understand where we go wrong and where we go right. So as a business, if you see the left side of the slide, we are very cautious about our brand image, right? And we are very cautious about our content strategy on LinkedIn. This is something that I've experienced with a lot of business owners, that whenever we discuss LinkedIn profile, they're very cautious about it because they know that their clients are sitting on that particular portal. They have so much of reputation on that portal. So they want to make sure that everything that goes on LinkedIn is perfect. And a lot of times when they're not convinced on the LinkedIn strategy, they prefer ignoring it, right? So I think people are very cautious about brand image on LinkedIn. When we as business go onto LinkedIn, I think we start looking at every opportunity to sell, which is I think a wrong way to look at the platform. You constantly see hunt for cold leads, you see one-way communication. I'm sure that all of you must have seen those in-mails in your LinkedIn message box where you don't know the person and suddenly a person has popped up with a new solution or a request without even warming you up to the idea of who they are or what they're trying to sell. So that's a kind of a behavior on LinkedIn which has really picked up and which has put off a lot of people on using LinkedIn for sales because they feel that we turn into one of those pushy salesperson on the platform. However, the serious audience that we actually want to sell to and the people who want to listen to us, the audience, what are they doing on LinkedIn? They are either looking for a job, they are reading insightful articles from thought leaders. They are making meaningful connections. They're trying to connect with people that they've worked with or they aspire to work with. They're following industry trends. For a lot of people, LinkedIn has also become a platform to showcase knowledge. It might be by sharing or creating a lot of articles, or it could be probably by commenting on a lot of different pieces of information which is floating on the platform. So that is what your audience is currently doing, and that's the journey that we need to become a part of, and not just look at one-way communication or look at our own purpose, which is more towards selling or getting more leads. So I think this was an important behavioral aspect that all of us need to understand. And Freedom, have you faced something similar on your LinkedIn page?
Yes, very much. Like I have got some in mails, advertising on solutions which are very far from the work that I do, and that
Right.
those are pretty irritating. And maybe I'm also guilty of doing some cold lead or sending some mails to some people, and would have irritated them as well. And the
Right.
two key things that I can take out from this is personally, when we are on the platform as a business or and as an individual, we ourselves can notice the change in behavior. So when I go on LinkedIn as me, I'm also looking for trends and insightful articles and what's happening, what thought leaders are saying. But when I go as a business, I start looking for leads, where I can get business fraud. And the
Right.
same me looking at the platform in two ways when I'm wearing two different hats is an indicator of that I'm doing something wrong. If I'm creating a content which I would myself consume or somebody like me would consume, then I think it makes sense. And here I think the concept of a professional influencer sort of builds in for me, that you have to be
Hmm.
like an influencer but on a professional term. You're not talking about food or travel, you're talking about terms related to work, but you are talking in a way that you're influencing the behavior and inspiring the other people who are on the platform.
Right. Correct.
So on that note, because the primarily function of people here are looking for jobs. So before we move further ahead and look at the marketing aspects, I just want you to look at a video which will also be a quick break in our presentation, and you can use this time to put up some questions on the topics that we just covered. And if you have also faced a similar situation, and what did you go through?
What am I searching for? In job terms?
I'm searching for a job where I'm in charge.
That doesn't feel like work. Search for a job because it's time to move out.
I'm searching for a job that's creative,
That shares my values.
where I can have a life. I'm looking for a job where I can socialise. I love a pay rise.
A job where I can make a difference.
I was made redundant. Yeah, it was really hard. 'Cause,
I'm searching for a job right now.
That breaks down barriers, where I can help people.
I just want to be outdoors. I'm looking for a job that believes in me,
that gets me back on my feet.
that's flexible.
That's easy what I can do.
I think it's just about being happy.
I found my job.
I found my job.
And I found my job on LinkedIn.
So two things that I want you to take away from this, that obviously the basic platform usage is searching for a job. But when you saw in this ad, when people are looking for jobs, then just not looking for a place to earn money. They're looking for different value systems. Everybody has a different meaning for the job that he wants to do. And that's the opportunity for us. If you go after those values and those meanings and influence them, is when you get attention of the people who are on this platform. So next segment that we enter now, and I'm pretty excited about it. How do we do the basics? How do we set up our profiles or pages so that we can eventually get success on this platform? And there are a few basic stuff that we need to cover for that. And Shia will describe this in more detail.
Thanks, Preetham. So I think what Preetham mentioned in the previous section also, that while this tool is primarily built for jobs, it's the people who took the platform ahead, because, as Preetham really rightly mentioned, that it's the essence and it's the emotion, or it's what they look for from a job. And that's when the advertising aspect started kicking on LinkedIn, where people wanted to help each other or provide solutions which can help you either pick up your own profile or help you in the department that you are working in. And it's a natural progression for any social media platform, that once you have that kind of a user base, you move towards the advertising side of things. And LinkedIn, why it worked well and why it's such a powerful tool is also because when it's related to job, when it's related to about maintaining your profile, people are very particular, right? You're going to make sure that each and every detail that you mention is crisp and clear. And that's the power of LinkedIn, because of the data that they're holding on to. They know exactly who's working in which company, what's the size of that company, what's the designation, who are they connected with. So that's really the power. And what we're going to try to do in this section is just play out the basics that we need to set up before we move on to the advertising side of things. So for any business which is new to LinkedIn as a social media platform, I think the first thing that we need to do is make sure that the senior management at least has their profiles updated. I'm not going to go deep into each and every section, but I think all of us already use LinkedIn, so we are aware of the sections that I'm talking about. It's the summary, it's your experience. Make sure that each and every aspect is clear. You've updated your profile properly and you have a headline going onto your profile as well. Second is an updated company page. Make sure that the firm that you're working for, or if you're handling the page for them, all the information is there. You've added the tab to your company website as well. You're making sure that your address, your phone number, all of the details are in place in the right way. The third thing is LinkedIn tracker, and 90% of the times we have seen that this is the missing link in even a basic setup for businesses. So similar to Facebook Pixel, even LinkedIn has a LinkedIn Insight tag, which basically means it's a piece of code that LinkedIn provides that you can attach to your website, right? and that will start tracking people from LinkedIn going onto your website. So you exactly know how well is this platform contributing to your success. So that's a very important step, and it's very easy to set it up. I think you can just go onto your LinkedIn company profile and you can check the section for tracking and conversion, and they give you that piece of code which you need to attach. It's pretty simple and basic. Then we have the active employee profiles, and I think for any organization which has just gone onto LinkedIn, it's very important to encourage all their employees to have an updated profile on LinkedIn, because that shows the power and strength of the company and also creates the brand advocacy on that particular platform. So that's a basic setup. So I think if you have this basic setup, you can at least start off with your LinkedIn journey. Moving forward, so this entire this basic setup that we have for LinkedIn is best suited for businesses new to the platform. This is a step where you can start building your LinkedIn page organically. So here you're not looking at advertising. The first step needs to be all organic. You need to build it through your internal employee strength. So you curate a lot of different content and you make sure that your employees are also sharing it on the platform. Obviously, your employees are going to have much more connections compared to your newly started LinkedIn page, right? So you're going to use the power of your employee base, because if they are an employee at your company, that means they come from the same field or a relevant field. So they're going to add on those new people to your company page initially to give you a nice start. Moving on. Now, when you're starting the page, what is the type of content that you should be really concentrating on? Now, LinkedIn is not like Facebook or Instagram, how we do different types of visual posts, or right, we are talking about a lot of offers and promotions. LinkedIn as a platform is best for listicles and topicals. And I think this is something also that you can put in the chat box. All of us love reading those articles which are like 5 ways to make sure your Instagram strategy is in place, or 7 steps to make sure that you curate the perfect corporate event, right? So those listicles and topicals are the kind of topics that work really, really well on LinkedIn, and that's the kind of content that you should be curating. The other way that you can look at it is that you analyze a lot of industry news and announcements. So LinkedIn is, again, as we know, is a platform where you're constantly sharing what's happening in your industry. So share that news, but make sure that you add on your company's flavor to it in terms of what comment as your company. Add that extra value to that particular piece of news. And the third type of content that we see that works really well on LinkedIn is human stories. Obviously, like we saw in the LinkedIn ad as well, it's either your employee journeys that you talk about or your client testimonials. Both these aspects together create like an entire human strategy to your page, and it gives out that feel because you see similar faces and people start liking it and sharing it. The formats that work best on this platform are blogs and articles. SlideShare, I'm sure that a couple of you use SlideShare. So SlideShare is a platform where you can update your presentations. And the SlideShare format, I would always recommend that limited to 7 to 10 slides maximum. That do not go beyond that, because that's when people start dropping off from your communication. Then videos, 15-second videos do really well on this platform. If you have a demo of your product or you have a virtual reality walkthrough, there's something that you really want to showcase to your customer, it works well on this platform. And from a blog and article perspective, I think anything limited to 500 words makes sense. And this is the basic structure of content. You cannot, the biggest mistake that a lot of businesses do is they replicate the same content that they're doing on Facebook and Instagram. The content that you do for Facebook and Instagram is very different from the content that you have to do for LinkedIn. What do you think about it, Preetham? Like, have you have you noticed like a lot of businesses following the same content strategy across platforms?
Of course, no, I have seen, and the first, lot of companies don't have a LinkedIn strategy, and at
Yep.
times even there are certain companies we don't allow local units to have a LinkedIn account for different reasons. So there is a barrier in that sense. And in terms of content, as you mentioned, this very much is in line with the values that people are looking for during their job search or beyond their job search, where they're trying to stay networked to the same industry they are in. But
Right.
personally, I've also seen one content that really works is whenever and this is especially from the HR perspective, I see a lot of people typing in controversial statements. They will
Hmm.
take a ongoing event and they will put a statement where the answer can be both yes and no, and people will start
Correct.
commenting either in favor or against, and that because of those comments, I think the whole thing builds up, and everyone who is commenting, people in their network start seeing that content. So
Correct.
what do you think? Is that the right approach, or we should avoid that?
So, from a content strategy point of view, you have to really take care of your brand image. And, while all of us know that LinkedIn is a personal profile, right, by the end of it, it's that individual's profile. However, the company association with the profile is very clear, right? And we've seen these incidents happening a lot when people are trying to share a lot of personal opinions, but the company has been dragged into the same conversation.
Right.
So that's why, like I said in the beginning as well, that LinkedIn is a platform where people are very cautious. And I think that is something that we also need to be with our content. So, not controversial, witty content is always appreciated. And having those polls being run on the LinkedIn platform also help in terms of getting that initial kind of engagement coming on. But more
Right.
than that, what I see really working is thought leadership articles or the listicles and topicals. I think they do wonders because people spend some time on this platform reading through those, and that's what really needs to be curated at a business level and put out.
Yeah, even in my own experience, I have tested writing posts like we do on Facebook, and I've also tried creating
Right.
articles. So, you can do articles as notes also on Facebook, but I think notes
Correct.
on Facebook don't work as much. Similarly, posts on LinkedIn are fine for sharing news and announcement maybe, but when you actually
Correct.
go and publish an article, that has got a lot of traction. It has got more life because I think when the articles are curated in your under your profile, and when somebody visits your profile, they might end up reading what you're thinking or what you're posting on your own. So I think
Correct.
articles have worked for me, and I think that should be a pretty
Yeah.
good strategy to have.
So I think the bottom line here is that people do business with people, right?
Right.
So we need to create content which connects or which shows the thinking of a particular brand, company, or a person. So that is why when people shift onto LinkedIn from a Facebook and Instagram strategy, it's very easy for them to start again just getting into the zone of promoting offers or promoting what they have. We need to understand that we are trying to sell to people who are here for a different purpose. So that's why
Right.
it's important for you to earn the trust and then slip through the offer, right?
Right.
So I think that is if all of us on the call, if you could try this also as an experiment, whenever you're creating your LinkedIn content calendar, just create content under these three headers and just see how your profile grows from that perspective.
Yeah, on that
Right.
note, I think on LinkedIn only I read a note which said, sign as a brand and get hired, and just ask for a job, and you nobody's interested. So I think that pretty much sums
Correct.
up what should be the approach on that. Moving
Right.
on, let's also cover lead generation, which is primarily, I think, a sales tool, which is different from marketing. It is a way we can actually directly reach out and create leads, and then follow them and create some conversations. And this is obviously there's a free tool and also there's a paid version to it. So Shiva, can you describe how can we use lead generation tools on LinkedIn?
Right. So, what we covered right now till now was the beginner stage for any company. If you've just gone on to LinkedIn, then that's the first thing that you need to implement. You need to put that as a practice before you move on to the second step, which is the lead generation. So, a typical period that I would say is that once you've started off your page, for 15, 20 days or 30 days, a month at least, try to reap on as much organic power you can do on that page. Why I always suggest companies to do this is because that really helps. As soon as you add the advertising bit on top of that, the ads perform better when you have a certain gained organic power. Then once you've gotten the organic power, then these are the two steps that you need to add on to your beginner steps. The two steps are obviously add on a LinkedIn marketing budget. LinkedIn marketing budgets are definitely higher than Facebook and Instagram. Uh, but I think this is the kind of a marketing budget that you need to utilize on a platform. Otherwise, you don't see any value. Even on a Facebook, Facebook, if we do ads worth 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, doesn't really show us any value as such. So I think LinkedIn has actually gotten in line with how people are looking at advertising and got this number in. We can do ads of a daily budget of close to 700 INR. So that's the base that you need to look at. So that's why a marketing budget of close to 25,000 a month should be the starting point that you should chalk out for LinkedIn. And on top of that, once you have the ads bit, which we're going to talk more in detail, there's another tool that LinkedIn has opened up. It's called Sales Navigator. And Sales Navigator is for more serious and high targeting. And this I suggest to companies which have a larger sales team attached to them to utilize this tool. This tool roughly costs about, I think, 4K per month. So it's on the expensive side of things, but it's a wonderful tool for highly targeting accounts. If you really know who your customer is and you want to get to them and you want to connect with them, then Sales Navigator is a perfect tool. Moving on. So as I mentioned, that with the whole Sales Navigator aspect, it's best suited for businesses with a dedicated sales team. Now, this once you've gone through the beginner stage, this is the stage where you start looking at lead generation and conversion as your prime objective, and that is why you've added that heavy budget uh, to go on, right? And the traffic and leads are completely generated through targeted ads and lead mapping. And as all of you know, and of anyone who's experienced this on LinkedIn, the best part about LinkedIn is targeting, right? Because the feature of targeting is so heavy. Like you can target people on the basis of company, on the basis of interest, on the basis of seniority level, on the basis of city. So there's just so many targetings that they open us up to, that sometimes the biggest mistake that a lot of businesses make is that they make their entire ad so targeted that it becomes very narrow, and it doesn't really add on to your brand awareness. It doesn't really add on to more people coming and checking your profile. So I think the one thing that we need to be very careful about is how you use targeting, and we're going to go deeper into that also later into the conversation. And as we talked about, like once you start off the well, we can't start pushing ads straight away with an offer or straight away talking about ourselves. The platform strategy, when you as soon as you start bringing in your ads, is you need to build authenticity. You need to create a voice for your brand. How do you do that? You do that through multiple blogs, articles, ebooks, do webinar sessions, create demos around your product, something that's showcasing value to the other person, because people are not sitting on LinkedIn and waiting for your product, or they're not even looking for your product. So in a way, you are approaching their space and you're straight away entering with a product. So that never makes sense. It's very important that you curate a lot of content that adds value to them. And I know that we use this term of adding value a lot, even when we talk about Facebook and Instagram, but here it takes a whole new meaning. Until unless you're not adding value, for example, if we are doing a session on LinkedIn, if you're not adding value in terms of how you can implement these steps, it's of no use to you, right? If we straight away go on and say start buying LinkedIn Sales Navigator from us, it won't make sense to you because you don't really know the value and it's irritating. So showcasing value is very important on the LinkedIn platform. And you must be seeing a lot of ads where you go onto a website of a particular business, and as soon as you enter the website, they ask you to fill a form, and that's only when you're able to download data of that website. Now that's a sales tactic or a lead generation tactic that's been going on for years, but we need to ask ourselves that are we really that kind of a business where people would want to share information before they've seen our product? So bigger brands, it's easy. Like if it's a Boston Consult BCG or it's a Google report, you would still fill in your data and you will get it out. But if it's a new business or it's a business that people are trying out for the first or the second time, people would not want to fill up that form. So that's why LinkedIn ads are a wonderful way of earning trust before you start asking them for details. Showcase your brand more, showcase your thought leadership and articles more before you start asking them for their details. And again, the platform strategy remains the same. You got to add in a lot of ebooks, blogs, and articles, do webinars, do fun sessions, do demos of your products, and I think that's what really makes sense. Peter, do you have anything to add on here?
No, I think that's you have pretty summed it well. One thing that I whenever think of LinkedIn, I think is that the way Microsoft is involved. So Microsoft has only one social media product, which is LinkedIn, and it is obviously in competition to other tech giants like Facebook and Google. And obviously, for that very much reason, LinkedIn has got a lot of stuff that are similar to Facebook. So when you do ads on LinkedIn, they look like Facebook and stuff like that. But one thing which is very distinct with both Microsoft and LinkedIn is that it goes after a professional network. So
Correct.
Microsoft, whenever it builds a product, it builds for the industry, it builds for working people or for companies. Similarly,
Correct.
all the tools, all the things that you can do on LinkedIn is customized for companies and for people who are actually working. So this only then makes it a niche place, and also the targeting part that you mentioned is I think excellent. There is no other place where you can do targeting as per job person. You can do you actually know whom you are targeting. And
Correct.
there's
Absolutely.
also where I think where where we did a campaign a couple of years back where we were even able to upload our own database of people who have used us in the past or the companies we are already in touch with. We could upload
Correct.
them and LinkedIn would match those people with the profiles and make sure that those specific people saw our ad or saw our
Correct.
email message. So this level of targeting and this level of capacity to reach out professional to a professional network is not anywhere else. And I'm very
Yeah.
sure that a lot of people on the call today would not have used the Sales Navigator. So I have
Right.
put a small video here, which in very brief tells you what a Sales Navigator is and how it can use, and you can decide for yourself if it suits your purpose.
Welcome to Sales Navigator. This short video will show you how to use Sales Navigator to build and nurture customer relationships that lead to increased sales performance. With Sales Navigator, you can target the right buyers and companies, understand what buyers value, and engage buyers with personalized outreach. Sales Navigator was designed for salespeople like you, and it's a separate experience than LinkedIn. This way, you can keep all of your sales activity in Sales Navigator and keep your personal, professional brand on LinkedIn. To get started, we'll walk through an example. Let's say that you're looking for people in the energy industry in the Arizona area. First, we'll use Lead Builder to find the best prospects. This advanced search tool lets you search the LinkedIn network using over 20 filters, such as keyword, company, geography, and title. You can see that relevant details are provided for each prospect in search results, including current company, position, tenure, and geography. Based on your search criteria, you found Noah Gold. He looks like a solid prospect, so you save him as a lead. Your lead list is private, and Noah won't know that you saved him. Now that he's saved as a lead, you'll get updates about him on your Sales Navigator homepage. You'll know when he posts an update, changes jobs, connects with someone else in your network, or starts a group discussion. Noah's company, Solar Slash, looks interesting, and you'd like to find some other leads at that company. The account page shows you company updates, job changes, mentions in the news, and other people you can reach out to. You can also store relevant information and organize your accounts and leads by using the Notes and Tags features. Lead recommendations are people who are similar to your leads or match the sales preferences in your settings. If you're part of a sales team and have Sales Navigator Team Edition, you'll see Team Link Connections. Team Link automatically expands your LinkedIn network, showing you which colleagues can help connect you with the right prospects and accounts. Finally, back to Noah. Let's say that you've been keeping up on company news and Noah's activity, and you've decided that now is a good time to reach out to him. You can visit Noah's profile, see who you know in common, then ask that person to introduce you. Or you can also reach out directly to Noah by using your InMail credits. InMail is the messaging system on LinkedIn. When you do, you can personalize the message based on the insights you discovered in Sales Navigator. That's it. Now you know how to target the right buyers, understand what they value, and engage with personalized outreach throughout the buying process. The most successful sellers start off by saving at least 20 leads. Why not?
And I
So I
think,
think
yeah, so I think I'm just going to take up the question also because I can see Sushmita and it's very similar and it has a usage of Sales Navigator to it. So I wanted to take this question up right now. So Sushmita has mentioned here that the irritating part of LinkedIn is that sometimes you get a connection request and as soon as you accept it, you get a sales pitch coming into you from that person. And whether that technique is right or it's wrong. So it's definitely a not an acceptable approach, and that is the problem because once people got to know that your actual clientele is sitting on LinkedIn, people started using these techniques. A smarter way of approaching this, Sushmita, which goes well with Sales Navigator. In the video, what they showed, right? You can target the people that you want to connect with, and then you can save them as a lead. When you save them as a lead, they don't get a connection request, but you can start following their activity on LinkedIn. So, for example, let's say I want to connect with you, and you have been sharing a lot of, let's say, content around immersive marketing or VR and AR, and you're constantly talking about that, how it can be used for your industry, then I, as a marketer, I can probably check on my LinkedIn Sales Navigator and see that you're sharing a lot of content around that. Then I send you a connection request, and just imagine if there's a short note which comes to you about how we are doing a session around AR and VR. Would you like to know more? And you can join. Isn't that like a much better approach to go towards businesses? So these are the tools that LinkedIn is actually creating for sales and BD people to move away from being the side of things. So I think that's the power of LinkedIn Sales Navigator, that you can actually choose the contacts and you can choose the companies that you want to follow, and you can constantly track what's happening with their movement so that you can approach them with the right communication. And I think that's what LinkedIn Sales Navigator is really helping out with. They are even adding on this one more layer that, let's say I want to connect with you, Sushmita, and like, the LinkedIn Sales Navigator is going to show me the best way to connect with you. It's going to tell me that, okay, Sushmita works for this particular company, we have a connect in this particular company, and he is the right person to introduce you to her. So that's the kind of power that LinkedIn Sales Navigator creates. So whenever a business is looking out for very key targeted accounts, LinkedIn Sales Navigator is like the perfect tool to use.
right, and I want to
Moving
add
on
on
to
that.
the
Yeah. Now, I want to
yeah,
add on to that
yeah,
example. While you said, like, if there is a topic that a person interested in, a person interest can be varied. If you go onto a person's profile, you can also see what
correct,
companies is he following, or maybe you can also notice that he's following maybe sports or he likes football a lot, and or
correct,
he likes a particular team a lot, and whenever the team wins, he's always posting about them. So you can
correct,
even find a common interest and start conversation on that topic, or giving him more information or updates on his own hobbies, and that can also break that
correct,
ice, make you, and that person will come back and notice you as a person who has got a common interest. And obviously when he
right,
or she checks out your profile, he knows what you are into as a business, and then of course
correct,
if he has a need, it might so happen that he actually connects back with you. So that is also a
right.
way where you can actually warm up your lead and find common interest and create that connection, so that when the actual conversation or business requirement is there, it comes very natural.
Correct. So I think the sales navigator is more from a perspective of what your sales team needs to have. And that's why we are coming into this section, which is advertise on LinkedIn. What can you do as a marketing unit or as a marketer? What can you do with LinkedIn? What type of ads can you create? I think we've cleared up upon the content strategy that you need to apply. I hope that it's clear for everyone on the call. If you have any questions around that also, please feel free to put that out. But those basic three pillars that we talk about, I think just that is good enough to have a good LinkedIn presence. On the advertising basics, what I'm going to do is I'm going to first talk about a couple of word keywords that are there in LinkedIn advertising, which we should be familiar with before we get onto the entire topic. And the importance of these these keywords is because we are so used to Facebook and Instagram advertising that we know the terms which are constantly used there, but there are some other terms that we need to look into. Campaign manager is similar to your business manager on Facebook. So it's one dashboard that LinkedIn provides you. It's accessible to any one of us. We can just open that. You can put your credit card to it, and then you can start using it for ads. And that dashboard showcases all the parts of your ads, what you're trying to put as an ad, the analytics around your ads. So that's the main dashboard that you get. The second thing is the bid strategy. Now this is what used to be very high earlier, which has been dropped down, and that's why this entire LinkedIn marketing has become accessible to all the businesses. So bid strategy is basically the cost to reach your audience, and we've got to be very careful on this particular aspect because the targeting is so good on LinkedIn that we end up targeting exactly the person that we want to connect, and we make the audience very narrow. When you make the audience very narrow, LinkedIn tries to calculate that how many other advertisers are trying to reach out to him and how much are they paying for their ads. On that basis, they calculate the bid value for you. That all the other advertisers are ready to pay up to $10 to reach out to this person. Your ad will be effective only if you're paying $10 or plus, right? So that's the bid strategy that we need to take care of. The wider the audience, the bid strategies are a little lower. When you go very narrow with your audience targeting, the bid the value goes higher. The targeting, obviously, I think Preetam mentioned this also. LinkedIn also has a platform, has two beautiful units to it. One is matched audience, and the other is the demographic targeting. Matched audience basically is that tool which gives you the power that if you are holding on a lot of database of your existing customers, right, you can upload that on LinkedIn, you can upload their email IDs, or you can even upload a target company list. Let's say at a hotel level, your sales team is trying to get into 30 or 40 corporate accounts. You can get a list from them of, and the minimum list needs to be about 300 companies that you're targeting. You can put that up, and that could be your ad targeting. So now, whenever you run that, those 300 companies would be hit with your communication. Then comes the demographic ad, which we spoke a lot about on the basis of company seniority. So LinkedIn has, I think, about 15 different types of categories that you can target people with. The recommended use, and this is a pro tip, is that do not go beyond more than 3 or 4 different types of classification. Because when you go beyond that, you're highly targeting your ads and your ad performances are not going to be that good. The fourth thing is that we like advertising on Facebook and Instagram so much. Why? Because there's a large network attached to it. If you advertise on Facebook, you're getting Instagram with you, you're getting WhatsApp, you're getting Messenger. There's an entire unit behind it. LinkedIn has also something similar, and they've done it at a much refined level, which is they've partnered with media agencies where they are able to push your ad even in areas like New York Times, Business World, and more of the curated, thoughtful, insightful article and knowledgeable portals. So that's another space that if you advertise on LinkedIn, LinkedIn ads are going to follow them on all of these platforms. So I think that's the advertising basic structure that all of us need to be aware about before we move on into the ad tools. So this is my favorite ad tool on LinkedIn, and I think most of you must have seen this ad tool or probably worked around with it. It's the sponsored content. So sponsored content is basically what you can see on the screen right now on the right hand side. It comes out as an article or an image or a video or a carousel on your feed, right, when you're going through. And you can see the company, either they're talking about their upcoming webinar or they're talking about a particular ebook that they have put that you can download, or sometimes they're just taking you to the website page where they're talking about a particular solution. How do they do this ad is they set up a sponsored content ad. And in a sponsored content ad, we've got various formats. We are allowed to do single images, we are allowed to do videos, we are allowed to do carousels. So if you're talking about a solution which has multiple benefits to it, you can put it as a carousel. If you have a hard hitting image that you want to use as an ad, you can use that. And more than the visual on LinkedIn, I think something that we need to be very careful about is how you put your content, right? So maybe on Facebook, you're just selling your wedding or banquet space, right? You're putting in, you're talking about it, you're visually showcasing it. On LinkedIn, you got to talk about your service side of things when you give the banquet. You got to talk more about how, as a team, you're able to curate the entire experience for them. And it needs to go in the format of a listicle or a topical, because that works best. Another beautiful feature that LinkedIn has, and for all of you who joined us even on the Facebook shop and Instagram shop call, um, we've been talking about how social media platforms want you to complete the entire journey within their platform. Even LinkedIn has started doing that, and that's through their pre-filled lead forms. So if you're looking at generating leads, let's say you're doing a banqueting ad and you want to generate leads that you can pass on to your sales team, you can build in a form. And the beauty of this form is that when your customer clicks on that form, it'll be pre-filled with his data that they will pull from LinkedIn. So he wouldn't have to put his name, he wouldn't have to put his email ID, he wouldn't have to put his designation. It'll be pre-filled by LinkedIn. That way, the data that you're going to connect from this ad is going to be super authentic. So people don't have the power to play around with it, right? And I think this is a ad format, and this added with the whole lead generation aspect works really really well for LinkedIn. I have personally tried this ad, and the quality of data that we are able to generate through this ad is perfect. Like, we know that when we reach out to that person, also that person remembers exactly which ad and where he filled it up and why he filled it up, and the conversation starts on the good note. So I think sponsored content is something that I would advise. The first ad tool that you want to use on LinkedIn is sponsored content.
Right, and I want to just add on to that from my own experience. So, as you mentioned, if you have got an offer which has got multiple pieces of information, and that's in hotels, we normally have offers which has got a lot of amenities to talk about. So I think the carousel ad forms works best when we are trying to get conversions, more traffic, more bookings. So
Correct.
in that's one you should go after. Static, as you said, if you have a really powerful single image that that conveys visually what you want to sell, and you did not write too much text around it, that's when you should go for static. In terms of video, the platform supports videos up to 10 minutes, not more than that. But shorter videos work better when you are trying to do a sales conversion. However, if you're trying to create some engagement and you have made a really nice video around the values that are more popular on LinkedIn, even a long form video will work for you. But the pre-filled lead generation form are really amazing. We had done a campaign, as you mentioned, last year, and that was around meetings and conferences. And we had submitted a pre-filled database where we knew of all the companies that we are already working with, and we had an offer of three variations or three options
Right.
that the companies could choose from, and we got amazing leads out of that, and that we obviously then passed on to our sales center, and they continue the journey to
Correct.
convert and find out more about how what they actually
Yeah.
need.
And actually, this comes back to the fact that we started off this today talking about LinkedIn is quality, right? And that's exactly what happens when you're going to see the quality of leads coming from LinkedIn. They're impeccable. I mean, you know that you're connecting with the right person. You exactly know, what their designation is. You know what kind of a conversation you need to have with them. So I think it's a very powerful tool. And this is something that I would advise that if you're doing your first ad for your LinkedIn page, you should do a sponsored content and just get a feeler of the kind of leads that you're able to attract with the kind of content. The second ad, which I think all of us will be aware about, because in a way we've sometimes been irritated by those ads, but there are different ways of using this ad, and that's the sponsored messaging ad. That's when you see advertisers coming right into your inbox. With this kind of a tool also, there are two formats that LinkedIn has opened up, which is one is a simple messaging. It's a one-time message that goes up and it has a call to action. And the other is conversational. It's very similar to how we have the programmed ads on Facebook, where you can start having a pre-defined conversation with one of your target audience. And once they start communicating with you can give them options, so they can choose their own path of what information they want to consume and whether they want to schedule a meeting with you or not. I think the basic issue with sponsored messaging ads that we notice and why we are put off by this ad is that exactly what Sushmita had mentioned, that you accept a friend request and then suddenly you're hit up with a long message in your inbox which is talking about a tool which you have nothing to do with. So even in email, the targeting needs to be good. The shorter you can keep the message, the more value oriented. I mean, you need to start off like sounding like a human being. If you're sounding like a machine, and if your ad is so widely if it's created for mass, it's not going to work out on LinkedIn. And I have a theory around it, and that's purely because all of us have two personalities. One is the one that we are in a normal life with our loved ones, and our other personality is what we are in business. Right? As soon as you go onto LinkedIn, you turn into your business mode, and then you make sure that why is this person connecting with me randomly, blah blah. There's so many issues that crop up. That's why you've got to keep your messages very short. This works well again when you've targeted your audience very well, and you exactly know the journey that you want to take them towards. I usually recommend sponsored messaging ads to people who are very confident about the kind of content they have on other platforms. Because if you're having a pre-programmed conversation, you're either taking them to your website, or you're taking them to your Facebook, or you're taking them to a landing page. So if that piece of your marketing strategy is very strong, you have a lot of good content on your website, that's when I would recommend taking this sponsored messaging route. And when you're setting up a sponsored messaging ad, you always have to select a sender profile. So, for example, in my company, if I'm trying to run an ad from Strobe, I'll have to select that whose profile will go out. Like, will it be my profile that goes inside a person's inbox, or will it be someone from my team? So choosing that sender profile is very important, and that's a pro tip that I want to give to people when they're using sponsored messaging. Make sure you're using a profile which is already powerful. It's powerful because of their connections, or it's powerful because of the kind of content that they already have on their page. So I think that's very important before you go on to sponsored messaging. And on the right hand side, you can see examples of that. The first one is a regular messaging ad where it's just hit upon you, and then you have an option with the get started button. The other one, you can see that there are multiple options given, so that the person can choose their own path and start consuming content that you want to push to them. Right. The other ad tools, another tool that I really like is the dynamic ads that they have on LinkedIn. So this is something that again all of you must have seen on the right hand side of the LinkedIn page. You can always see your photo along with another company's photo, right? So those are the dynamic ads. They're dominantly used for job ads, but they can also be used to increase your follower base on your LinkedIn page. And how you can do that is you curate a basic content, a basic one-liner, and basically you try to showcase what your page is all about and what kind of information you're sharing through your page, what kind of insights you're sharing through your page. So once you set up this kind of an ad, it will show to people that other people are following this page to learn more about hospitality, to learn more about immersive marketing or whatever. Would you want to follow this page? And that helps you increase your follower base. I've seen a lot of people using this ad format even for registrations. So if you're doing an event and you want to get a lot of registrations, that's something again that people can utilize it for. The pro tip here that I would suggest that if you're using dynamic ads, make sure you're putting your key content strength. So if you're talking a lot about industry news, make sure that you put it out. So then people know that if I follow your particular page, I'll constantly be updated about what's happening in my industry. So those are typically the main ad tools that I would recommend from my end that you should look at LinkedIn. And sponsored content is number one that I would definitely want all of you guys to try experimenting with. Now, once you've set up your ad, you've put out your ad, the key metrics that you're going to look into on a LinkedIn platform are impressions. Impressions are basically how many times your ad is getting viewed on that particular platform. Click-through rate, if your ad has a call CTA, which is about going to the website, then you want to know the click-through rate, how many people are going through that, and the percentage of that. When you put a LinkedIn Insight tag, what we spoke about earlier, that you should put this particular piece of code on your website so that you can track people from LinkedIn onto your website. You can trigger conversions from there. So basically, LinkedIn will tell you that through this ad that people saw, they went onto your website and then they made a particular transaction. So that's a conversion. And then we have the CPC, which is cost per click, which determines the strength of your ad. So you constantly want to see, is your content doing well or not, and how's the CPC like. If the cost per click is too high, then you know that your content is not doing well, and you should change your content. So these are some of the key metrics that you look into when you're setting up a LinkedIn ad. So from the tool perspective, you set up a sponsored content ad, you run it, and then you start coming on to looking into these metrics. Right.
Thank you, Shiva. I think that was quite detailed and quite insightful in terms of what all we can do with LinkedIn ad tools. We'll take again a small video break before we start the next section. And till now, if you have seen all the examples with only international faces, I just want to assure you that we have Indians very much active on LinkedIn. And this is a video that will just prove that point. So with that, we come to the last section, that what are the tips and we can use to make sure that we stay ahead of the game on LinkedIn and the cheat sheet that I promised. So let's get started.
Right. So I think, guys, we were able to go through the entire, what are the different ad styles that we can use, what is the right content strategy. So if you look at it, how we've tried to set up this entire session for you also was to focus on those particular key areas. So you have three content pillars that you need to look into. You have these particular only 2 or 3 types of ads that you should look into, and try to really reap the benefits out of. Similarly, these are very simple steps that we've put across, and I can vouch for the fact that if you start following these points, you're going to see a huge difference onto your LinkedIn company pages. And the frequency that you need to maintain on your LinkedIn company page is about 3 to 5 posts per week. This is a good number. This is a good number to have in terms of generating enough interest on your page. And at the same time, please make sure that you're not duplicating the content from Facebook or Instagram. The content style for LinkedIn is completely different. So you need to go towards your listicles or your thought articles. That's where it really makes a difference. So curate three, and I think go forward from there. Another thing which is very, very important, and this is actually true for any platform, until unless you start becoming more and more active in the platform doesn't give it back to you, right? So you've got to join relevant groups on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a lot of wonderful groups where people are actually sharing a lot of insightful data, they're sharing their thoughts, and these are closed network groups. So join those groups from your personal profile, and you start actively participating. LinkedIn does not allow you to join groups from a company page as of now. So you have to join it from your personal profile and start communicating. Then people will start coming onto your profile, and from there, they're going to start following your business page as well. LinkedIn also has this wonderful recommendation. So on your notification, if you manage a business page, you're going to see that they give you a notification that says that this article in your industry is doing really well. Do you want to comment from your business page? So that's the opportunity that they open up for you to utilize your company page to comment on different portals or different chat boxes. So I think that's an important area that you need to utilize in order to get more presence felt on LinkedIn. Set up your LinkedIn Insight Tag. I can vouch for it. If 90% of the businesses in India, I don't know why they do not set this up. It's a very easy step. You just need to set it up, and you need to make sure that you constantly keep on looking at your Google Analytics to see how many people from LinkedIn have gone onto my page, and then you'll start understanding how powerful this entire platform is. Follow recommended specs by LinkedIn. Just like any other platform, LinkedIn has its own specs for visuals, for content lengths. Obviously, shorter the better, but have that sheet in front of you whenever you're curating content. For blogs and articles, 500 words are more than enough. When you're creating headlines, do it less than 250 characters. So these are the specs that you need to take care of, because once you start following these specs to the dot, the platform starts awarding you for it. And you'll always see a better result on your ads. Then the last point is that you should always use your employee profile strength to unlock more reach. So if you're putting up content, make sure that you've created like a social media team within your organization who are constantly sharing, not just sharing the articles, but adding their points to it and sharing it. So let's say if we as Strobe, we share something, then we expect our designers to add it from a visual perspective. We expect our copywriters to add it in from a copy perspective and share it across for people to look at. So that's from an organic, that's the organic path that you need to take first. When you move on to the advertising side of things, obviously chalk out a budget of 25K and above, nothing less than that. It doesn't make sense on this particular platform. Unlike Facebook and Instagram ads, the minimum time frame that you should be running your ads for are 3 weeks. That's when you see the real value. We've gotten into the habit of running short ads 5 days, 7 days, 10 days on LinkedIn and on Facebook and Instagram. But on LinkedIn, they recommend that you run an ad for at least 3 weeks to see the true value of it coming out. When you're spending so much, it's very important to identify that, are you using the right type of content and visual. That's why A/B testing is very important. So whenever you're creating a campaign, make multiple ads within the campaign and test them out. Which one is working best, right? You make slight changes here and there, and then you push it out to see what are people responding to more. When you're dealing with a budget like this, it's important that you do it. Then another thing is that you need to make sure that you're running your ads in a funnel program. And when I say a funnel program, I mean that you need to have your strategy in place that, okay, I'm running a carousel ad, which will take them to my website. And this is generally to create awareness. That's my objective with it. Once I've taken people to my website, LinkedIn Insight tag has captured them. They know that, okay, these people have gone to your website. Now I'm going to retarget them with, let's say, a video ad, and I'm going to request them for a free consulting session, right? Or I'm going to put forward a free consulting session to them. So that's when I'm taking them to the consideration or the conversion stage. So creating those stages or those funnels are very important whenever you're looking and when you're dealing with this kind of a budget as well. Another thing is when you're setting up a LinkedIn ad, there are a lot of fields that they open up to, like, how much do you want to bid? Do you want to use this placement, that placement? It's good to understand and learn them and make sure that you know what you're setting up. All of these ads do come up with an automatic option. And when you're in doubt, trust the platform. When you're not sure that whether this is going to work or not, put it on automatic, let the platform do all the work for you. Then if you've gone from that stage, you're starting see good leads coming in, and then you have a sales team attached to you, do sign up for a sales navigator trial. I think for the first month, the trial is free, just that you'll have to put in your card details. But try it out. That tool is beautiful for you to understand the kind of power that LinkedIn really holds. And I think apart from that, creating remarketing strategies is very important, and creating remarketing opportunities with your ad, right? So once you've generated that kind of a list or leads that you've generated from your LinkedIn ad, put those leads back into LinkedIn as an engine. Put those leads back as matched audiences and see how they're able to find more lookalike audience for you, and make this into an entire 360 journey that is constantly moving. You're generating leads from LinkedIn, you're putting it back to create lookalike audience, and again you're targeting them. So I think that's the entire cheat sheet that I wanted to share with you today. I think the left side is something that you can start implementing from now on. And then once you're confident with the kind of content you're curating on LinkedIn, you can move towards the paid side of the things.
Right. And before we move towards the last slide, I think one very important concept that I wanted to just share was, you might all be aware about the 6 degrees of separation. So what 6 degrees of separation means, that anybody in the world, if you go deep, And if you go by 6 degrees of separation, like you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, so within 6 steps, that person will be connected to somebody whom you know. So that's how the whole world is connected. And what LinkedIn has actually done, it has reduced that 6 degrees of separation to around 3.4 degrees of separation. So with the networking on LinkedIn, we are more closer to people than ever. That's a great thing in terms of networking, but it also brings a challenge that people are exposed to more opinions, more advice, right? And it becomes difficult to take a decision. And that's what is very important, that your lead time is small. So once you engage with somebody, you are able to move fast and get in touch and bring up your product, and don't waste time once your target audience or target guest is already in conversation with you. So on that note, on LinkedIn, you also have got something called degrees of connection. So people, those you know directly is like shows as your first connection and second and third. And you must use this network to get introduced to the other sections, other connections which are relevant to you. So for me, if I'm digital marketing, I should reach out to all digital marketers in other hotel companies and find out whom they know, whom what we have in common, and create that connection. So if you see the understand the concept of degree of separation and understand how LinkedIn has used it to make 3 degrees of connection, you can actually unleash the power of networking that LinkedIn has. And we can't end this conversation in the COVID times without referring to what LinkedIn means in this duration. LinkedIn has come up as a platform where people who are in distress because they have been losing jobs or they have been furloughed and they're looking for new opportunities. This is a platform that has really come to risk of a lot of people. A lot of people are reaching out to their colleagues in the industry to help out. A lot of people who need help are also posting their requirements. And this platform is doing fabulous networking. So I'll just show you a video that proves how the entire process is happening. And this is so much relevant to today's time. With that, we come to the end of today's session. And after that emotional video, I want to end on a lighter note. The pictures that you see here of mine on top is one with my daughter, which is center of my life. And below you can see Benny, who is Siva's favorite
Caesar.
dog. And
That's Caesar.
Caesar, oh sorry, and and you can see Siva on his in his Batman avatar, and he loves that character a lot. Even when I visited him, I saw those stuff out there. So Shiva, you want to say something about your Batman connection?
Right. So I think, like, they say, it's Batman says that I'm your worst nightmare. So that's something that I keep on troubling my friends with. So that's the Batman avatar. But I hope that all of you enjoyed the session today. And I could see one more question before we close up. I just want to take that up, which was right there in the beginning. Let me just open that. I think it was from Pooja, and it was about how do you get verified on LinkedIn. So the verification on LinkedIn happens through two process, which is one is basically where you can request for a verification from the LinkedIn profile in the support center and you can get verified. The second is when you start curating a lot of content and your profile has reached that strength, which you can see on the beginning, it offers you that badge that you can unlock. So I think that's also something that all of us should look at unlocking, because that really not only helps us with our current profile or business, it helps us reach out and connect to a lot more people. And yeah, if there are any more questions, we're happy to take that up. We understand that LinkedIn is that kind of a topic where you really want to dig into it yourself and check out the platform more and more. But we'll be happy to take up any questions that are there, maybe right now, or even if later on you have any questions, do reach out to us and we'll be happy to answer that.
Right. And on that note, as you have said, LinkedIn is really a vast topic. And while we covered the main stuff that we think is important in terms of starting your own campaign or understanding the basics of the platform so that whenever you start your campaign, you are really successful in that. But if you're taking this platform seriously and are going to invest in it, I would advise that you do further read on this. There are learning solutions within LinkedIn that can help you clear up more concepts. There are also a lot of influencers. One of I know is Roshni Dhal, who became a huge celebrity from LinkedIn itself, and she also has got a course on LinkedIn. So you can also look her up on LinkedIn and maybe join her course and learn more, because more you know about the platform, the chances that you are successful at it will be better. There is no option to knowledge. And obviously, if you want to run a campaign, you can reach out to an agency and get the campaign sorted if you have the right budgets, or you can set up an internal social media team and do it in-house. So whichever way it suits you. But LinkedIn is a platform that you should not ignore simply because of the organic power that it has, which is much more in compared to Facebook and Instagram, and the power of targeting, which is way more than any other platform that exists.
Right.
So on that note, one more request I have, like if you've been following us for last 5 sessions, if you've got a specific topic in your mind that you want us to cover next, please you can leave it on the chat box, and we will try and include that in the coming sessions. And it's great to connect every week, and I'm